What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sam the Beard Guy channel. So today we're going to do the ultimate VST showdown, and by ultimate I mean all the pianos that I personally own. It's obviously not all 100 million that are in the market, but I own, a good 15-20 libraries. And so I've never done a video like this before where I actually compare every single one of them side by side. And so I want to do that today. As always, like, share, sub, comment, whatever you can do to support the channel is super helpful. Y'all hear that Rhodes playing underneath me? That is the new Rhodes V8 plugin, which is a deeply multi-sampled and hyper-realistic version of the acclaimed Mark 8 electric piano created by Rhodes. Guess what? They're giving away a free copy. Well, Sam, how do I get a free copy? Well, let me tell you. So they're hosting this sick competition called Missing Keys, where you score a short film using a free trial of the V8. All genres are welcome, so jazz, indie rock, grime, whatever you do, they want you to do it on their short film. James Blake and James Smith, two really popular creative titans in modern music, will be the judges of your score. The winner gets an actual Mark 8 real physical Rhodes, and their soundtrack will be actually featured as the music for the short film. 19 runner-ups will receive full versions of the V8 plugin for life. This contest ends on March 1st, so do not miss your chance. This Rhodes is sick, y'all. The V8 preamp features drive, low-high EQ, and very PianoTeq with rate and depth controls. The V8 also allows for tuning adjustment, mechanical noise balancing, and the electroacoustic timbre shift, among other options. Y'all don't miss your chance to get your hands on this Rhodes. See below or in the description for contest links. And so for all these, I've just loaded up the basic default preset. Maybe in a unique situation, I tweak something knowing that that's what you're going to do every single time. But I tried to keep these about the same as they come out of the box. Or in some of these that don't really have a default. It's weird. A few of these don't have like a default setting. It's just load up presets, so I try to pick one that made the most sense. There's also a mix of some felts in here, like there's an UnaCorda, but then we're also listening to the Grandeur, and so not every piano here is like exactly the same type of piano, but these are all pianos that I find a lot of people use in a lot of different contexts. Again, I don't own every piano, so chill. It would be impossible for me to. My collection's growing, but I'm sure someone's gonna be like, well, you didn't review this one, so this is not a really good review. It's like, well, I don't have all of them. Anyways, so let's just get going. It's the same thing for everyone, so we're just gonna kind of flip through them. We'll start with the Alicia Keys. Alright, so that's Alicia Keys. If you've been following my channel long enough, you know I don't love that piano, but surprisingly, it holds up kind of nicely there. Actually, I shouldn't have done that one first, because I want to I'll come back, maybe compare that. So next we had the Garritan CFX. I just actually got my hands on this piano. I love this library. I've been using it actually quite a bit lately. It's a big CPU intensive library, but it's fantastic. Yeah, I love that one. I will, sometimes on that one, the high end feels like really tame, which is nice. It does a really good job of feeling bright, but it doesn't poke out. I feel like a lot of libraries, when you get up super high, it just really pokes out too much. I'll sometimes throw like an F6 or some type of dynamic or some dynamic EQ on some of those high frequencies just to tame them down a little bit. But the Garritan, I mean, that thing feels great. That to me is it sounds natural. So next, we're gonna do the Gentleman. I use this a ton live. Cool. I love the Gentleman. I use that often live. So, I don't use the Gentleman like raw. I have quite a bit of reverb on it and do a lot of just different things to it. But the Gentleman's great. It's really low profile, and so those pianos that come out of the Native Instruments world, a lot of those are low profile pianos. Noire not so much, but Gentleman, Grandeur, some of those guys are pretty light on the computer, and so they are safe to use live for the most part. I would never use like a CFX or something live. That's too risky. So yeah, Gentleman, good low end, feels like an upright. I feel like the high end has a really unique characteristic or quality. Okay, so Giant. Yeah, so the Giant for me has always kind of felt hollow, which is ironic because it's supposed to be giant. But it feels hollow in the mid-range. It feels super gigantic in the low range, but it just feels hollow. Yeah, so I could see myself using the Giant for, something that needs to be giant. But again, I feel like you can achieve that sound with plugins on a different piano. So I don't think I've ever used the Giant live. The Giant is one of those libraries I just happen to have. If I needed to like put in a low octave on a downbeat of a song somewhere in the studio, I might pull out the Giant and use that, because when you get the sub, there's a Giant XL feature, and then you can sub out or bump the subs for the Giant on the low end. So if I really needed that, I would do that, but I don't find myself using this for kind of the more nuanced piano playing I do, and so that doesn't mean it's not good, it just doesn't really fit in my world as much. But let's get into the Grandeur. I use this live too. So I mainly use the Gentleman, Grandeur, and Noire live. That's not because I think they're superior. across the board. It's just because the risk reward for those libraries is pretty low, in that they sound great, but they're easy on the computer. And so I don't use Keyscape and stuff live just because it's just riskier. Now, I have a 4-year-old computer, so if I had a brand new computer, it'd be different. But just so y'all know, I use the Grandeur in the Gentleman a ton. I was in Arkansas for a gig this past weekend, and I only used the Grandeur and Gentleman for that. So I love these two libraries. Yeah, so for $99, the Grandeur really feels nice. I mean, you know, there's some settings that you can do on some of these guys. Like, let me get, where is it? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I know y'all have seen this before, but there's a good amount of customability in these too, even lid closures and that you can get into. So I think the Grandeur and the Gentleman are fantastic libraries that really make sense for a lot of people, because a lot of these libraries that you spend a lot of money on, you're paying for a lot of features that, you know, are like, I don't know, did I use that? Grandeur and Gentleman are minimalistic. They really only offer the features that you need, which is why I love them, which is a good contrast to Hammer and Waves, because Hammer and Waves actually has a lot of extra features that is great, but you pay for that. So let's listen to the Hammer and Waves. I love this library. I actually don't use this as much as I should. It's got some really cool creative things to it. Yeah, so I would say, you know, with Hammer and Waves, like, what I love about that library is all the cool things you can do with the piano. I don't know that the source material, I don't even want to say the source material isn't good, because that's not the case. I just feel like the default setting for that one isn't the strongest. But maybe that's unfair. Let's listen to it again. Yeah, it's just okay. It's not fair to say that it's any lesser quality. It's just, it was pretty different, jarring from the Grandeur. It's a lot brighter, you know, than the Grandeur, which is interesting because the Grandeur's, you know, a grand, you know, Grandeur. But yeah, so that feels nice. I mean, I remember when I reviewed this one, I loved it. Again, what's cool about the Hammer & Waves library is all the cool little things you can do with like the swarm thing and all the modulation stuff. That would be why you buy Hammer & Waves. I don't know of anyone. Granted, I don't, get a weekly report from people, but I'd be surprised if anyone's buying that library of just like, hey, I just need like a grand piano. It's like, no, you're buying that library because it does cool things. They've actually got some really cool lo-fi, like chill piano. I think I've done a few shorts using some of those pianos. So, again, I love this piano. Its real strength is some of the cool things it does. So Keyscape, I loaded in two Keyscape settings just because I use both of them equally at the same. I've just loaded up the softest setting, which is one of the presets, and then I just loaded up the default grand for another one, just because I use both of them equally, and they are different enough where I justified doing that. Yeah, so everyone knows how I feel about Keyscape. It's amazing. Yeah, that thing just, it feels, I don't know that I have a lot of criticism about it. It feels full. The stereo spread feels nice. Nothing really pokes out. It doesn't feel hollow or tinny, which I feel like a lot of libraries can, get that way. I do realize there's been some work done on it. That's kind of what makes Keyscape, is it's a little bit more produced in the box. But out of the box, it just feels great. So, yeah, I love that one. So this one is a little bit brighter of a preset. Yeah, so similar, just feedback from the softest compared to that. They both feel full. The low end on this C7 preset feels great. Stereo spread feels good. I've never had a lot to complain about these, other than half pedal support, as everyone knows. I do maybe find myself with the C7 preset to, again, putting an F6 on some of the higher notes and just kind of taming those a little bit. But that's not always the case. And so, both of those Keyscape pianos feel great, feel full. There's a reason why they're, regarded as one of the top libraries. And so, let's move over to the Maverick. Yes, I pulled up the plugin here just if you don't know. This piano is going to sound different because it's a unique piano. I don't remember what piano this is, but it's an older piano. So the tinniness critique that I would normally give to a piano, I'm less inclined to do it for this one because that is kind of the vibe. It's just an older... it's kind of trying to walk the line of like an antique, old, vintage piano sound with modernism. And so... I've used to use the Maverick quite a bit live. I've transitioned to the Grandeur just over time. That's more of a phase, not a, quality thing. It's just kind of where I've landed right now in my tonal spectrum world. So, but the Maverick's great if you're looking for that kind of sound. So let's go to the Noire here. So this is the Felt. I almost didn't throw the Felts in here because... Yeah, actually, let me do this. I'll move the Felts together, and we'll just get to those later. So let's do the Noire Pure, which is kind of the grand piano Noire. Yeah, so that thing sounds incredible. Feels full. EQ spectrum feels even. It's not tinny at all, which I love. So, and that one is up there. I don't feel like the Noire gets... I know it gets a lot of love, but I really think it should get more love. I mean, that one's up there. I'm trying to avoid ranking these, but I would put that in a high category for sure. And that's, yeah. So I'm kind of convicted to use that more now that I'm listening to it again. When I say I do use it live. I use the Felt a lot live, the Pure less. But man, I kind of want to use that more. I've got a new computer coming, so I might be tempted to swap out some stuff, rebuild my whole rig, since I just bought a powerhouse. So let's go over... yeah, like that one feels like Keyscape to me, like kind of. I mean, the Keyscape has a little bit more low end, like girth to it. Sorry if that word makes you feel weird. But, yeah, man, that one feels nice. Okay, so PianoTeq 8. The only adjustment I made on this one, if you know PianoTeq at all, you can imagine the dilemma I had on what to choose here, because there are tons of different default pianos. I just picked the Steinway B, Model B, whatever. I also moved this slider over a little bit and changed it from completely brand new mint, because I feel like 99% of the time you're going to be doing that. Sorry, you're going to be moving this all the time, I feel like, because this over here just always feels too perfect. Like moving this somewhere in between usually feels more natural. So I tried to avoid making any changes, but that was such an obvious one that I did that. All right, so that is PianoTeq. I've always had an interesting relationship with PianoTeq because I think PianoTeq right out of the box just doesn't feel great. But if you know how to get in there and tune it, not literally tune it, but just change some of the settings, change some of the microphone settings, there's just so much you can do. I mean, this whole section in here where you can just go to town is amazing. I mean, this is how much room you have to do microphone stuff. So I've never loved the way it sounds out of the box. I go back and forth on wishing that they had calibrated these default settings more, but I don't even want to say it's a criticism because that is what they're going for. It's like this is a sandbox of a library. Here it is, do whatever. And so again, I would never tell someone to buy PianoTeq 8 if you don't know or have an ear or a desire to tweak stuff. This is truly the antithesis or the complete opposite of a Keyscape. And so, yeah, I love PianoTeq, and I use it. I use PianoTeq quite a bit, but it's one of those, like, you have to realize when you load it up, there's some work that needs to be done. But I kind of love that process of dialing in some of the more fine-tuned stuff. So let's go to the Ravenscroft. I just loaded up the Grand one, the 275. I didn't load up the Modern U, which I guess is kind of a miss. Maybe I'll load that up here in a second. All right, so actually, I love the way that one sounds. I think it's getting right up to the point where I don't love how tinny it is, but it's right there on the line. So it's kind of a brighter piano. But I think this is one of the better ones as far as quality. Yeah, and the stereo spectrum feels good on that one too. So let's see if this worked. So of all the libraries, this one definitely, you feel like your ear's like right next to the hammer. Like it's got a very loud like hammer noise. which is a unique thing. You can get in there and change some of that, so that's not like baked in. But yeah, with some of these uprights that we're about to get into, or felts, like that upright feels like small, which is, I think it should, because it's an upright, not a grand, and you can really feel like it's just a smaller experience. And so, yeah, the Addictive Keys XLN. Yeah, so that one definitely feels bright for an upright. I don't. So to be honest, I don't use Addictive Keys a ton. I have it, but I don't find myself using it really that often. That's not because I don't think it's good. You get to a point where it's okay, I've got too many, and so I just don't use this one a ton. So let's get on to, I mean, it did have a kind of metallic vibe to it, which I don't tend to love, but, you know, whatever. All right, so Olafur Arnalds, so these next three should be kind of substantially different. They're felt to some extreme, so let's do Olafur Arnalds. Yeah, so I love that piano. I was super juiced up when they sent it to me to review. So felts kind of have a pretty wide spectrum of like what that means. I've always kind of felt like this specific piano is pretty low-endy, muddy, and not muddy in a bad way, just that's kind of the vibe. There's not a ton. Let me actually take you to the correct. Where are you? Here we go. Yeah, so there's not a ton to work with here. It's just these two, and then you can adjust some mic stuff. But it's always felt very kind of low end heavy, and so that's not good or bad. That's just kind of the vibe. Let's compare it to this one. So when you compare those two, which these are the two felts I find myself using more than any of the other ones, which is really unfortunate for UnaCorda because we haven't gotten there yet. But, you know, the Olafur Arnalds thing feels a lot more low-end heavy, which, depending on what type of music you're playing, there can be some just build-up in low-end energy, just harmonically, just because it's so dense, like the samples. But also, I think it's a little bit farther into the felt camp than the Noire Felt. Like, Olafur Arnalds Felt is way more felty than Noire Felt. And so it really just depends on what kind of you're looking for with your felt piano. I don't get the same... If you're playing like a lot of low-endy stuff here, I find myself going, the Noire feels better for this, just because there's more clarity down here. If you're doing a lot of open stuff and, you know, high-end stuff, like the Olafur Arnalds stuff is great and works for that just as much as the Noire. So they're both, I think, top-tier felt pianos. They just have a different usefulness preference, personally. I just finished tracking the album I'm doing. And I had to go back and forth of like, do I like the Olafur sound or do I like the Noire sound for what I'm doing here? And I didn't want to use both and like interchange them. So I wanted to pick one sound for the album. And so I'm not going to say which one I picked, but I picked the Noire. Just because the type of playing I was doing, there was a lot of clustered stuff in certain areas. And I just felt like the Olafur Arnalds piano would get away from me. And so that's not a knock on that piano, because I think anything Spitfire has ever done has been gold. That was just my personal preference for the album. So love both of those pianos, though. So UnaCorda... Yeah, I mean, I might be being a little unfair to this one. Maybe I didn't pick the best preset. I tried to pick the best one out of the box, which, you know, with this you get cotton, felt, or pure. You know, I feel like, I mean, this picture of the piano kind of says how I feel about it. It's definitely like a creative take on a felt. There's just a lot of things in here that, you know, are cool. I don't know why this will not work for me. Is it because this is... Yeah. I guess when things are bypassed, it doesn't work. Oh, then if that's the case, hold on. I want to make sure I'm being fair to... If that's what it was. Okay. This wasn't working earlier because I had the plugin bypassed, which is still a weird thing. But yeah, I'm gonna go edit that out. I don't want to. Yeah. Anyway, so UnaCorda, it's definitely like a creative spin on the felt. It's got a lot of additional features and things. So you've got a cool like little tape, you know, style thing here. So yeah, I feel like this picture really describes this piano. It's a unique take. It's kind of in the camp of the hammer and wave stuff. It's like, hey, here's kind of a grand piano or our felt piano with a twist. And so if you're looking for cool ways to do felt stuff, this is a great library to do that. Again, the Noire Felt also has some cool stuff too. It's got the particle engine where you can do some cool things. But I don't use the UnaCorda, if I'm being honest, really ever. I've tried to, but it just never works the way I want. And that's not true. I've used it a little bit, but I don't find myself using it a ton. but that's just kind of the type of music I'm playing. So that is all of these pianos. I kind of stopped taking notes towards the end. Sorry. So whatever, not in a bad way. Just I stopped taking notes. So yeah, that is basically all the libraries that I use or own that I've used in some capacity. Again, I didn't include every single piano in here that I own. I left out Art Vista. I left off Midnight Grand, and a few others. But these are the ones that I use. These are the ones that I see on, your top 10 list of pianos to use. I know I'm missing some. Like I don't have. Actually, I don't know which ones I don't have off the top of my head. But yeah, so again, these are all different. I'm not going to rank these because that's the whole point of the video, is for you to do that yourself. I do have an internal ranking list, but some of these really stand out as top tier. Others stand out as top tier with really unique applicability, and some of them just kind of like, maybe these have aged or just aren't what they used to be. We're kind of in a place now where I don't know how much better libraries can get. They basically sound real. I think technology is going to improve. The VST world is in the actual physical hardware, where you can really make a difference is having a nice MIDI keyboard. That's really where this stuff's going to come to life. But the stuff that's come out in the past 5, 6, 7 years is top notch. And so, but again, all these have different tones, different vibes. Some of them are closer, some of them are farther apart. But yeah, I've used all these at some point in the past, either once or a million times. So if you made it all the way to the end, thanks for watching. Sub, like, share, all the things, and I'll see you later.